How would you feel if you were told that you had to eat plant-based? Well, that's kind of what National Trusts are doing. My name's Zara, and here's what's happened in the environment today. The National Trust sent out a poll to their members, basically saying, should we make 50% of the food that we serve in our cafes on site plant-based? And there was an overwhelming majority of yes. However, this has come under massive backlash and massive fire from members of the general public and farmers who are basically obviously worried that, their meat production and selling of their meat and dairy is going to go down if National Trust start providing 50% plant-based food. National Trust members are being invited to vote to make the food vegan and vegetarian as part of their commitment to meet net zero by 2030. Now, as we know, meat and dairy production produces a lot of carbon dioxide, and therefore the more we eat, the more higher our carbon footprint will be. Former Tory MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, this guy, said, it's a silly attention-seeking proposal that won't have any effect. This is an attention-seeking proposal. This is abhorrent. So basically, loads of people are saying it's attention-seeking, it's a bad idea, like farmers aren't going to have any money. And there was big backlash when people found out that the National Trust made their scones vegan. But the National Trust turned around and was like, honey, this wasn't some wokery thing. Everyone was like, National Trust is so woke for making their scones vegan, use butter, blah, blah, blah. And then the National Trust turned around and went, hun, our scones have been vegan for 3 years. And they obviously just didn't tell anyone. So anyway, besides the point, my initial question was, what's your thought on the National Trust making 50% of their food plant-based? I think it's a good idea. As long as the food is local and seasonal, then I don't know why people are kicking up a fuss. And this is a Californian hydrogen-powered train, which is zero emission. Considering the US isn't known for trains and is known for high energy consumption, it's quite impressive that they're actually making steps towards hydrogen-powered trains. At the moment, it's only a 9-mile journey and carrying 400 passengers on weekdays and about 1,000 passengers on the weekend. But there's no reason why at some point this couldn't be expanded. It's the first one of its kind in North America, so no reason why it can't. The reason why they did this and why they're trialling this is because LA is due to host the Olympics in the next 4 years, and they want to make LA a carless city. Now, if you haven't heard of Too Good To Go, number one, where have you been? But number two, Too Good To Go is essentially an app where at the end of the day, a cafe or a supermarket that needs to throw out food will put it on their website and you can get a big box of food for a couple of pounds. Food waste is responsible for 6% of emissions globally. So if this were to be a country, if the emissions were to be a country, only the US and China would emit more emissions, aka it would be the third most polluting country in the world if it was a country. And in 2022 alone, 2.5 million tons of food went to landfill in the US alone in 2022. Much of this food is good to eat and shouldn't be wasted and should be given to people or even farms. It says here, Too Good To Go currently has 14 million users in 13 countries, which has saved over 20 million meals combined. According to their statements, every saved meal saves 2.5 kilograms of CO2. So doing the maths, it's about 50 million kilograms of CO2, which is the equivalent of taking about 50,000 cars off the road. So if you haven't heard of this app, there's Too Good To Go and there's a couple more as well. And it's a fabulous way to not only get cheap food, but also save the planet, save your pocket, all that jazz.